and welcome to the CanadianSME Small Business Podcast, the heartbeat of entrepreneurship and small business innovation across Canada. This is your host, Maheen, and today we'll be focusing a lot on the small and medium-sized enterprises, which are more than just businesses. They are the engines that drive our economy forward, create jobs, foster innovation, and enrich our communities with their diversity and resilience. In every episode, we zoom in on a crucial aspect of our communities, underlying why it's essential to support and champion local businesses for a sustainable and prosperous future. So today, we're delving into the world of media and communications, uncovering the power of storytelling and strategic communications in building successful brands and businesses. So let's dive right in. Today, we are delighted to have Dayo Kefentse, the founder and managing director of Dayo Media and Communications, join us. With a career spanning over 2 decades as a communications director, manager, broadcaster, writer, and journalist, Dayo has made significant contributions to the Canadian media landscape. Her journey from conducting impromptu interviews as a child to becoming a recognized voice on platforms like CBC's Metro Morning and contributing to the Toronto Star showcases her innate passion for storytelling and media. Through Dayo Media and Communications, Dayo leverages her extensive experience to help businesses and individuals amplify their messages, guided by principles of equity, diversity, and inclusion. Join us as we explore Dayo's insights into the industry and her valuable advice for young professionals. Good afternoon, Dayo, and welcome to the CanadianSME Small Business Podcast. How are you today?
I'm great, Maheen. How are you?
Very well. And we're it's quite an honor to have you with us today, Dayo. It's, your remarkable journey in media and communications coupled with your dedication to making impactful storytelling offers a wealth of inspiration and insight to our listeners. And we're all eager and all ears to listen to your journey. Now, Dayo, every entrepreneur's journey is filled with unique stories, challenges, and milestones. Could you share with us your entrepreneurial journey that led to the creation of Dayo Media and Communications, and what was the defining moment that convinced you to take that leap into founding your own agency?
Well, it's so interesting. Growing up in the Toronto area in the 70s and 80s, we're of a particular generation where having your own business, especially as a young child of immigrant parents, was not necessarily something that was encouraged. I think growing up, I expected that I was going to work in television. I was going to kind of go a very regular route. I was going to work in the studio. I would hopefully anchor one day, perhaps move to the US. There were a lot of plans. But over time, I realized that there were a lot of organizations that really were struggling, trying to figure out, and I'm here talking about the kind of 90s, how to get their stories told. You have to remember that things weren't as immediate as they are now. Back then, the ways were having a radio show, getting on television, maybe getting in the newspaper. And although I didn't necessarily always have all the answers, I knew which questions to ask to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was to host, because eventually I hosted a community radio show, or to help provide communication support to organizations. And slowly that started to build. There were more people that I knew in my community, and then people that I'd meet just through my own travels that were looking for the kind of expertise that I was able to provide. And so the turning point, I think, if I think about my first client, was a grocer, a Caribbean grocery that was very big in Mississauga called JoJo's in the 1990s that was looking to expand. And he had a particular vision, but needed some help to execute it. He wanted to provide to provide excitement for the city, invite the mayor, invite Caribbean community. And I felt like I could help do that. So I basically pitched myself and another one of my friends and said, why don't we try and do this? And that was client number one. And that was about 25 years ago. So that was the summer of 1999.
We love the inspiration and motivation behind you finding the platform. But your journey from a budding journalist to becoming an entrepreneur, it really highlights the power of perseverance, of vision in navigating the path to a successful business, which is amazing and very inspiring. As we reflect on Dayo's journey to founding Dayo Media and Communications, it's a powerful reminder that the path to entrepreneurship is rarely linear. Each challenge, each leap of faith builds a foundation for a future we dare to envision. This story isn't just about overcoming obstacles, it's a testament to the strength found in believing in one's vision and the transformative power of perseverance. So let Dayo's journey inspire you to embrace the uncertainties of your entrepreneurial journey with courage and determination. But in today's global market, embracing diversity and inclusion is not just a moral imperative, but a business advantage. Given your commitment to reflecting the principles of equity, diversity, and inclusion in all that you do, could you share how these principles really influenced your approach to business and storytelling at Dayo and Media Communications?
Well, I think it's a testimony to the life I've lived, being a young, relatively young, Black person growing up in the Greater Toronto area. My lens was always unique. I wasn't necessarily only relegated to our community. I got a lot of community and cultural input through my church and through different family, but I was also integrated into a wider community. And it was my opinion in developing the business that we are not just one thing, we are a multitude of things. And that if we want to be speaking about this for clients or clients that are looking to connect with audiences, it's important to be really reflective, because I know from my lived experience how many times I would read something, watch something, and not necessarily see myself and feel excluded from the story, and then really check out of it. It's really important then in our approach in everything that we do to really have a wide scope, considering all of the elements, particularly when it comes to equity, diversity, and inclusion. It's just to think it's not something that we ended up adding. It's just something that we've lived. And through that lived experience, we can then provide that kind of guidance to our clients to help them really better tell their stories, and not simply and also find those blind spots that they may not necessarily know are there, because we have lived them and seen them.
Mm-hmm. So the dedication that you have in incorporating these values into your core business practices, it really highlights the significance of these values in creating a more impactful, resonate, and a successful business. Before we dive into the art of cultivating long-term client relationships, let's pause and appreciate the essence of connections in business. In a world teeming with transactions, genuine relationships stand out as a bedrock of meaningful and sustainable success. Dayo's insights into fostering these connections remind us that behind every business interaction is an opportunity to build a bridge, to transform a service into partnership, and to turn customers into lifelong allies. Now, Dayo, long-term relationships with clients are the cornerstone of a successful business. Could you delve into your advice on building and maintaining these vital long-term relationships?
I know the word authentic gets thrown around a lot these days, but there's no sense in starting a relationship if you don't actually want to maintain it and continue it, and also not just keep it solely at the business level. Yes, there are some times where you have a client where it's strictly business, but our approach is perhaps more friendly than corporate, and that's by design, because we want our clients to know that it's not simply here that we're not here for the invoice and the client. We're here to learn who they are. We care about the work, and we want to continue conversations beyond the one thing that we're working on. So some of our clients have been repeat, and we've been really blessed to have that. And I think it's because they have seen that we are serious about making sure that the quality of the work that we're providing is something that is something that works for them, and that we're also interested in who their child is, and if they have a pet that's passed away, and what's happening outside of the workplace, because that then helps to increase connection. And then in increasing connection, it helps to get more information from people. Not that you're doing that for that, but the kind of the offshoot of it is that you can then provide better work, because you know what your client needs and who they are beyond simply what was in the project scope.
Right. And if you want to kind of understand this approach a bit better, can you share like an example of a client relationship that has significantly impacted your business or approach?
Sure. We've been working with an organization called Parents of Black Children in the past few years. They're an advocacy organization that has been really trying to uh, make change for the issues that they see that are going on, particularly in the education system across the province. When we first started working with them, we did not know them. We were approached because our names kind of came around. And when we did our first project with them, um, it was a challenge, but it was one that we could all sign up for, because as people who have gone through the education system and have experienced some of the issues that they were fighting for, we could get behind it. Over time, that relationship has expanded, where we are now working on videos with them. We are supporting their publications. We have attended their events. We have supported their launches. And I'd like to believe that we're friends with the client now. They're people, they've come to trust us beyond simply the product that we have worked on. That's exuded just through conversations, not something that you would necessarily see, but just through side conversations and requests and feedback, that there's that ease that people can speak with us. And that, again, is established from how we approach things from the start. We aren't a typical organization that's simply there for the money. We are there for the relationship and to extend that beyond just the one project.
No, we love the approach. It really emphasizes the importance of trust, reliability, and mutual respect in creating lasting relationships. Now, in the journey of professional growth, the right resources can make all the difference. Dayo, you've mentioned that people can be more valuable resources than books for young professionals starting out. Could you expand on this idea a bit more and share how mentorship or networking has played a role in your career?
Sure. I tend to work with a lot of people in their 20s. And one of the things that I've noticed, and a part of it is just, I think, just the times that we're in now, in some cases, some of those young people aren't necessarily as confident or sure about talking to people. Possibly because there's a big gaming kind of industry now where you can talk and text, but not necessarily have these kinds of conversations like we're having right now. And that's a skill that needs to be built. One of our younger associates had asked me the other day about resources, and I was like, you can just ask people. You don't need to know. There's reading, yes, and there's looking up websites, sure, but people have so much information that they can help guide you if you just ask the question. There are many times, I remember once reaching out when I was working at CBC, I reached out to Peter Mansbridge, and he was, for those who don't know, the national anchor at the time for CBC's The National. I was working in radio, he was in television. But I just approached him and I was like, I would love to speak to you to find out more about what you do. And he goes, I'm so glad you did, because most people think I'm here busy and I don't have time to talk, but I actually would love to make the time to talk. That too is a bit of my own personality. I'm a bit of an extrovert, so it's nothing for me to reach out to folks and ask questions. But I really encourage those who are younger than me to really, and younger and older, but those who are maybe a little shy, to consider that story about Peter Mansbridge.
Right.
There are people sitting around waiting to be asked questions if only they would get asked the question, right? So take the leap and people will often want to share.
Your belief in the transformative power of mentorship and networking connection really underscores the importance of human connections in personal and professional development. Dayo's emphasis on the unparalleled value of people over books in the realm of professional growth shines a light on the essence of mentorship and networking. This insight invites us to look beyond traditional resources and seek the wisdom that not only human experience can offer. As we navigate our professional journeys, let's remember the power of connection, the impact of shared story, and the transformative potential of a guiding hand. Now, bringing important stories to the forefront can speak and spark conversation and change. Your master's work, Generation X Marks the Spot, is being recognized with an exhibit. Can you tell us a bit more about this project and its significance?
I'd be really happy to do that. And it's actually interesting where we're located right now in Mississauga, because the issue that I was writing about started here. So I worked on my master's degree. It was something that I always wanted to do. It wasn't necessary to do, but it was something that I always wanted to accomplish just for my own professional and career development. And I decided, just leaning on my backstory and working at CBC for many years, to do an audio documentary as a final project. And I really wanted to focus on some of the changes that were made by people of the Generation X, which is the generation that I'm part of. And the reason is because often when we read up in history books, we're reading about people that have either passed away or people that are slightly older. And often the people who actually did a lot of the work are those stories aren't told. And sadly, because we are of a generation that was kind of part digital, part analog. A lot of the documents and the proof and the receipts are stuffed in boxes or just not available for quick access. So what I was really pleased to do was talk to some people who were part of the Black activist movement of the 1980s, and particularly focused on trying to find reasons and get justice for the death of Michael Wade Lawson, who
Mm-hmm.
passed away in 1988, just up the road from here at
Right.
the hands of Peel Regional Police. Why that was significant for the people of our generation at that time. I was a little younger, but when I spoke to the people who were older and part of the documentary and part of the exhibit at the Bradley Museum, was that this was someone who could actually be our age. He was born, I believe, in 1971. That's not that someone who would now be in his early 50s. He was taken away as a teenager. All of those years were gone. But this happened in Mississauga. People don't think about sometimes Canada, or especially the suburbs of Canada, to be places where these sorts of things occurred.
Right.
And it's important that these stories get uncovered. The reason I brought up analog versus digital is because the people who were part of that activism process at the time, they all had papers that were just sitting in their basements. That they didn't know what to do with. And so they said, I said, well, give them to me, because I had no idea they were part of it. I said, I will do something with this one day, and I will try to get your story told, because it doesn't help anybody if it's sitting here in the basement, but it can certainly help if it gets digitized and if it can get
Right.
exhibited. Thankfully, the city of Mississauga was also interested as part of their BIPOC curator program. And that's how it's now part of the exhibit. So it's a blessing to be able to not only help clients in the business side and tell their stories, but this is kind of an extension of that work on the academic side. Um, and it's great to be able to partner with the city of Mississauga for this.
That's amazing. And how do you hope this exhibit will impact the conversation around police brutality and community unity?
I'm not sure how it will impact the business of police brutality. I'm not sure about that. But what I am hopeful is, I understand that at least in Ontario, there's a new initiative that Black history will be taught now permanently. And that was announced around the same time as we did the exhibit launch in early February. So my hope is that this work, now that it's been uncovered, and not to again say that other people hadn't reported this work, but I'm really trying to center it as part of a Black history story that should be told in this part of the Toronto area, because it happened here and it had wide impacts. I should also say that the death of Michael Wade Lawson and the way it was handled led to the creation, as is connected to the creation of the SIU, which is now a legacy of that. But what it took to get to that, so that people could be really held accountable for the deaths of people, is a problem. So I am not sure about police brutality and unity. My hope is, though, that the people who see the exhibit, who listen to the audio doc, who watch the videos and read up on it, will at least be able to see the path from where we are now to where things were before. Get a hint, because that's a way to, by knowing your history, is a way to know kind of what's going to happen and what's going to happen next. Centering it as part of the Mississauga story, my hope is that people will be more aware of it and will then seek to put more people accountable, because those stories are now being more uncovered.
Dayo, your commitment to really do the storytelling through impactful stories that you share through your work, such as the exhibit, really showcases the profound influence of media in really highlighting, some success stories, and then, of course, the injustice in the community, and, of course, creating awareness for it. So thank you so much for your work and that you do.
You're
Um,
welcome.
but before we wrap up, Dayo, could you offer a piece of parting advice to our listeners who aspire to make a mark in the media and communications industry, or are looking to harness the power of storytelling in their business?
I would probably take that in two parts. The academic work, which was a master's piece, as I said, I grew up with two parents who had done great work in their time. And it was done in a book that was shelved and put away. And I think the power of media allows now that you can do this work and have it be out there. I knew that when I was working on this master's audio doc, that it could have been shelved or it could have been public. And I really want people to feel encouraged to use the platforms that you have to really tell the stories, because there are people who will care about it. And there are people who really need to know about it.
Mhm.
That's the same kind of approach that we take with our clients on the business side of things, with myself and my team who supports the work. We look at everything as an opportunity. That's one of the kind of lenses that we look at, and not in an opportunistic, let me try and grab what I can way. But if there's a story to be told, whether it's an internal story and supporting an organization to understand more about what it is that they can do to improve whatever it is they're working on, or whether it's a media launch, it's important to really get it out. And it seems obvious, but a lot of people, there are organizations that have come to us in the past that were tentative about telling their story, or they weren't sure people would care. And one thing, after working for many years in journalism and in many years for almost 25 years in that field, you realize that there's someone who cares about everything. It may not be always the wide thrust of people. It might be a narrow set of people, but there's someone who cares about everything. The key is to find a way to write to those connections and get those people to care. And once that happens, those people can tell more people and your story gets extended.
Thank you so much, Dayo, for joining our podcast and sharing such invaluable insights. I mean, your journey, it serves as a powerful reminder that what impact dedicated storytelling and strategic communications can have on communities and businesses alike. But thank you so much for joining us again.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
And that was our end of our discussion with Dayo Kefentse. Today's conversation really highlights the critical role of storytelling, strategic communications, and building genuine relationships in achieving business success and making a meaningful impact in our world. A special thanks to Dayo and our partners, exclusive banking partner RBC, shipping partner UPS, and exclusive accounting software partner Xero, and email partner Constant Contact. To our listeners, we really encourage you to draw inspiration from Dayo's journey and consider how you can apply these insights into your business endeavors. Remember to subscribe to the Canadian SME Small Business Magazine by visiting our official website, CanadianSME.ca, for more insightful conversations and practical advice. Thank you for tuning in into the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. Your engagement fuels our mission to uncover and share the stories that shape the vibrant landscape of Canadian SMEs. Join us next time as we continue to explore the journeys, challenges, and successes of small and medium-sized enterprises across Canada.